So module 3, writing question anchors. Setting up your yardstick. So imagine you're making a tabletop. I've used this analogy before. I'm going to use it again throughout the training. If you're building something out of wood, maybe a box or whatever, a tabletop, whatever it might be, you need exact measurements to know where things go. If not, they're not going to fit right. You're going to make some cuts. They're going to be odd angles. It's just not going to work out very well. It's going to look rough. It's the same thing with interviewing. Because what we're doing, the process I'm sharing with you is a scientific process. It's a process created in the field of industrial organizational psychology to identify applicants who are most likely to be successful in the role. So the way we do that is by having question anchors. And that would be, it'd be like that yardstick, right? Now, to do it, it can be a little bit tricky, but I'll walk you through a good example, and then you'll reproduce the same thing for each of your interview questions, right? So you've already identified how you're going to measure them. You decided I'm going to measure their ability, and we decided what we're measuring is their ability to do well in the current job. We've identified what that current job is. So now we need to convert that to a unit. And the way we do that is called behaviorally anchored rating scales, or BARS for short. Psychologists come up with the worst names for things. You know, that's why anything cool, we didn't get a name. And so what you're doing is you're defining the middle and ends of the scale, and that allows you to compare across candidates. So we talked earlier about using a 1 to 5 scale or a 1 to 7 scale, whatever it might be. And we've got to define what a 1 is, what a 5 is, right? You know, you go to the doctor, they ask you what's your pain level 1 to 10, right? But we've got to have some kind of, and they kind of help identify a 1 is this, a 10 is this, right? Same thing here, same basic principle, but a little bit more exact. I guess we're coming with really clear definitions. So here we've got the example of the role of receptionist at Acme Wellness Center. And the question is, can you tell me about a time you were able to proactively resolve a customer concern? How did you uncover the concern and what was the outcome? So we're trying to measure and predict their ability to resolve the concerns of our customers as a receptionist at Acme Wellness Center. That's what we're trying to predict. And so what we're developing is a metric that indicates their ability to do that. So let's start with a 3. This is a 5-point scale. If you're going to use a 7-point scale, the middle, of course, would be a 4. And you could do 1, 4, and 7, right? So a 3, at the top, I've got the level of the example. Good one to keep in. If somebody's being very vague, and it's no matter how much you follow up with additional questions, they don't give you more detail, then it's important to rate that as well, to capture the vagueness or specificity of their example. So the next row on the 3 box, it says ask questions of the customer to understand their needs, applies best customer service practices. So a 3, that's our midpoint. That's a good hire. It's a solid person, right? And we're setting up our scale specifically this way because we want it so anybody who scores a 3 or above, that's somebody we could hire. So all the 3 or all the midpoints that you use should be described in a way of that's a good hire. That's not the best hire. That's not the superb, high-performing individual. That's not your dream applicant, but that's a good applicant who's going to do well in the job, right? And so if we go to the higher level, so they're asking questions to understand the customer needs and providing best customer service, minimum, right? That's what you expect. Now to go to a 5, it's ask questions with genuine interest, so there's that interest, and ensures understanding. So, and that's how they relay the interest. So they're getting a real good understanding of the customer's needs. And that I do want to point out that the applicant's not going to just share that with you. You're going to have to pull that out of them through follow-up questions as you interview them. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Provide suggestions and uncovers additional needs. So the difference here is they're asking questions with more interest. They're getting greater understanding. And that leads to them providing suggestions and uncovering additional customer needs. And then they're delivering not best customer service, they're delivering a delightful customer experience. So that's how we talk about it differently. And then a 1 would be ask customers what they need, right? So a 1 isn't ignores the customer. I mean, we're not even trying to rate that. If you ignore the customer, of course you're gonna get a 1, right? That's worse than a 1. But a 1 is, it just asks, what do you need? With no indication of what kind of customer service they're getting, right? And then the next row on the 3 is adapt somewhat to the customer's point of view, interest, and understanding. So here we're trying to understand they're taking on the customer's perspective, they're looking at it from their point of view, and if they do it somewhat, and adjust to the needs and interests of the customer, great, that's a 3. A 5 would be completely adapt to the customer point of view, interest, and understanding. So they're really taking on and really understanding that customer point of view. And a 1 is they don't always adapt to the customer's point of view, interest, or understanding. So that's our scale. And so what you will do is you decide if you want a 5-point scale or a 7-point scale, which one you use, that's really up to you. A 5-point scale can be helpful. It's what I've commonly used. A 7-point scale gives you a little bit more variability, meaning there's more numbers to choose from. So it's a little bit easier to use the full range of the scale, if you will. But either one works well. And I will see you in module 4.